Honey? What's wrong?
Mom. Who's that?
Go back.
Ever since the dawn of cinema, things that have appeared on the screen have been deemed shocking or frightening, even if it wasn't the media's intention. As the march of time has developed and inducted new types of genre to cinema and left some for the archives, we are constantly, as an audience, shocked and amazed at what we see in modern cinema. But one genre has started to suffer in the face of audience shock factor, and that genre is horror. Many have said that the modern horror is already dead, or is due to die soon, but does it have to die? When modern horrors popularise in pop culture are promoting the cheapest scares with little to no consideration of suspense with formulaic horror stories being churned out by the mass, are we in cinema doomed for uninspired futures in the planes of horror? Or can we save the genre? Horror's ultimate goal is to scare and thrill the viewer, disturb and unsettle. So where does horror go wrong? Well, to fully understand this, I've dedicated my October to watching nothing but horror genre films, from the latest releases to the classical horrors of cinema. So in this video I endeavour to answer what makes something scare us in cinema, and is horror a doomed genre? When people talk about horror movies, you'll often find people express mixed opinions about the films that you talk about. This is because of a couple of things. Horror is ultimately, and in a strange way, like comedy in that it is subjective. What scares you personally might not scare others. Themes which are explored in films like The Nightmare on Elm Street and It, more so in It, as Pennywise's goal is to promote fear in his victims before taking them. This is a prime example where you can have people find the character of Pennywise unsettling, or scary, disturbing even, or like me, you aren't so much scared by the character but the endless things that he's capable of. Now, this is why people find some horror scarier than others, because they can hit or miss the invisible nerve that is, your fear. Another factor in what can define fear in an audience is what I like to call situational horror. This is kind of like my own sub-genre of horror where you can separate films into different situations which can make people uncomfortable. So like you can split Jaws and The Deep into, shark films. You can put Hush, The Strangers and The Purge, at least the first one, into home invasion horror. But this whole situational horror aspect can narrow down what really gets under your skin, and it's about what makes you, as the viewer, shiver, that finds what scares you. The unknown is what ultimately scares me. But who doesn't it scare? After all, nothing is more dangerous and malicious in manifestation than our own imaginations. If you don't know what the threat is, you don't know what to do about it. That's what gives the intro to Hush its effect. This masked man with no emotions, at least until he takes his mask off, is scary. The Strangers too. Masked criminals, Michael Myers, The Mist, The Thing, even Paranormal Activity, not knowing what's under a mask or hiding in the dark, is menacing. So, what's killing horror these days? Well, to put it bluntly, it's the cheap scares. A way of gaining a reaction out of anyone is to jump out on them, because it activates a survival instinct in us all, to tense up with fear and become hyper alert to threat. It's primal, and a really cheap way to scare people. I'm talking to you, Jason Blum. So many horror movies these days resort to just scaring us with constant jump scares with no build up, and ultimately they're just predictable.
We need to pray now. And whatever happens, whatever you may see or hear, keep your eyes forward and don't stop praying.
Ave Maria, gratia plena, Dominus tecum, benedicta tu mulieribus, et benedictus fructus ventris tui, Iesus. Sancta Maria, Mater Dei, ora pro nobis peccatoribus, nunc et in hora mortis nostris. Amen. Ave Maria, gratia plena, Dominus tecum, benedicta tu mulieribus, et benedictus fructus ventris tui, Iesus. Sancta Maria, Mater Dei.
Pop culture brought these into persistent use. Used correctly with the right suspense and build-up of tension, a jump scare can be an effective way to give the audience something to remember. Take a film like Quarantine, where the firefighter falls into the lobby. The scene is already tense, and our attention shifts to something that we hear elsewhere. It's all to do with the fact that it was unexpected. The cliche is to build the tension with strings, get them nice and loud, and then kill the strings, hang for a second or two, and then stop. Just stop.
I'm gonna call Child Protective Services!
Use of horror in the sudden and unexpected is frightening, and it will work as a jump. Like the blood test scene or suspenseful builds, which are done particularly well in Thing. Sometimes a scare doesn't even have to have a payoff. Sometimes, when you build suspense to get the audience at the edge of their seat, only to leave them biting their nails in anticipation, to kill the silence with leaving them there, is an effective method in invoking fear, because these kinds of sequences play on anticipating a scare. Something to attack, leaving the viewer over-analytical and alert. It's at this point you can think about the later payoff as the viewer lets down their guard. The recent Hereditary had a couple of moments that did this really well, the same with The Conjuring. So if this is anything to go by, when boiled down to the bone, horror lies in two major players. Suspense and build, masterfully done by artists like Alfred Hitchcock and Stanley Kubrick, and the most important one in my opinion, the unknown. Because of the betrayal by imagination, you'll never know what the real threat is, because your own brain betrays what you initially think to be true. In Psycho, you're not sure who kills Marion, you just assume it to be the mother, right? Only to find out later that you're dead wrong. This is why Mama 2013 completely shoots itself in the everything. It's an embodiment of bad horror. The threat is shown to us in a cliche way, the pacing is rubbish, and I've never relished in a little girl's death quite like this stupid human. I digress. The unknown is scary, if it's a spirit or an entity or anything. It's that respect that lends paranoia to The Thing, and another fantastic example, Devil. You don't feel like you can trust any of the characters, much like the characters themselves. Paranoia proving to be a good tool in suspense and horror. So considering our imagination and mistrust in each other, could it be that the monsters are what we make them? Or who we make them, by our own twisted minds? So, to revive modern horror, should rely more on suspense and character complexity, and less on jump scares. Thanks for watching.